Hi, this is Frank Taylor coming to you with another episode of Nature in Your Backyard. And today's episode is really about clarifying something. What is the difference between bees and wasps? And which ones can sting you more than once? And how are bees and wasps different? And how are their stingers different? I often hear people say, "Oh gosh, I was at a picnic and I got stung by a bee." And I was like, was it a bee or a wasp? And they go, well, what's the difference? Well, there's a big difference between bees and wasps. There's another thing people say. They'll say, I got bit. And bees and wasps don't bite. So if a bee or wasp hurts you, I promise it was a sting. Now, other animals like mosquitoes and certain kinds of flies do bite. The mosquitoes technically are stabbing you with a needle-like proboscis and for the purpose of getting your blood. And other flies will bite you also to get your blood. But I think that's a topic for another video. So today's bees and wasps. Yesterday I left my door open to the outside without pulling the screen closed, and I ended up with some wasps and bees in my house. So I collected them off the window, and here again, I've got a great episode for you. So let's take a look at a bee first. This is a honeybee that I found inside my house, where Nature in Your Backyard goes indoors, and he was on the window. Then I got him off the window and put him into this bug box so we could take a close look at him. And you'll notice that the honeybee has a relatively stout body and thick legs, and it has a lot of hair on its body. Bees need two things in order to survive and support their colony. They need to have honey, or they make honey. They need to have nectar in which to make their honey, and they need to have pollen. So in our diets, we need to have proteins to build muscle, and we need to have carbohydrates for energy. And the flower provides both of these for the bee. So it's like the bee is really a vegetarian, and you can see how hairy he is right there. Those hairs help him collect pollen. When the bee goes to a plant to go get the sweet nectar to provide carbohydrates and energy for itself, and also to create a storehouse for the colony itself, the bee gets the nectar and sips it with his long tongue, and the pollen is picked up on hairs. And in fact, there's little pouches on his back legs that let him pick up that pollen. What do they need nectar and pollen for? Well, the nectar provides sugar for energy, and the pollen provides protein because they're going to raise eggs and offspring, and in order to grow and produce muscle, they need protein, just like people need carbohydrates and protein. As you can see, this bee is not particularly streamlined. They sort of have a stout, clumsy body. And if you think of bumblebees, they're really, really stout. So that stoutness is a characteristic feature of bees. And again, I just want to point out how hairy they are. And that hair lets them pick up pollen. Bees are generally less aggressive than wasps, are less likely to sting, unless, of course, you get near there or a beehive. And also, they may be less aggressive, too, because when they decide they have to sting, and it's kind of interesting to see his jaws right there, when they have to sting, their stinger has barbs on it. And I drew a picture for instructional purposes of a bee stinger. And you can see that a bee stinger has barbs on it. And so when a bee lands on you for the purpose of stinging, and this barbed hooks penetrate your skin, it's not going to pull out easily. And in fact, if you brush that bee off, or push that bee off, or slap it, this whole thing tears out of his abdomen. And on the end of this barb that's sticking in your skin, you'll see muscles and a venom sac. So people often say, don't pull out a barb with your fingers, because if I take my fingers and squeeze this to pull out the barb, what's going to happen? I'm going to help the bee by pushing venom into your skin, and it's going to create more pain, and more venom will be injected into you. So the best way to get a stinger out, they said, is to scrape your skin with like a driver's license or a credit card or something hard with an edge, so you can catch some of those barbs and pull that out of your skin. So never try to pull a barb out with your fingers. Try to scrape it out to minimize the amount of venom that will be injected. So bees with a barbed stinger sting one time, because those barbs stick in your flesh, can't pull out. When the bee stings you, it's kind of a kamikaze thing. He's going to end his life because this stinger will tear out his body and he can't pull it back in again. Now let's take a close-up view of a wasp. This is a wasp, and I suspect it's probably in the paper wasp category. How is it different from the bee we just looked at? Well, for one thing, we can see that his body is smooth and shiny. Now, there's not very many hairs on it. And another thing you can see is that his legs are long and thin. Do you see how small a waist he has between his thorax, where his legs are attached, and his abdomen? So very often wasps have a very, very thin waist. And so you can tell a difference between a wasp and a bee just by their body shape alone. I always think that the wasps just look more streamlined and they look more aggressive than bees. And in fact, a lot of wasps are predators. Where bees get their protein from pollen in flowers, wasps get their protein from various prey items. Depending on the species and what's available, some wasps will feed on carrion and take meat from a dead animal that they find. Some will go out and catch insects like caterpillars or grubs or other insects. Some wasps will even eat spiders. And there are certain wasp species that I'll describe in other episodes that eat primarily spiders. So wasps are predators, so they got to be fast and strong and sneaky and zoom in on a prey item that's not expecting them. Whereas bees just they're going from flower to flower, and it's kind of pretty relaxed, so they don't need to be sophisticated attack machines like wasps. And you can see even how much more active this particular wasp is than the honeybee that we were looking at. Wasps are generally more aggressive than bees. Bumblebees are bees, and you really have to harass a bumblebee pretty aggressively to get them to sting. Whereas wasps, at picnics, often will sting people at a picnic because, you're interfering with their opportunity to get food, and they're just not going to tolerate that. And I think the other thing that makes wasps more aggressive might be the fact that they have a retractable stinger. This is a diagram that I drew of a retractable stinger on a yellow jacket. And if this was a yellow jacket, this would be yellow, and there's his black markings. And his stinger, relative to the width of the segments of his abdomen, is really this long. And it's very sharp, and he's got muscles where he can extend this stinger and retract it back in, extend it and retract it back in. So a wasp like this one can sting you multiple times because he can land on you, sting you in one place, sting you in another place, and he can push that stinger in and out, in and out. The wasp, unlike the honeybee, does not die when he stings you. The honeybee, when he stings you with its barbed stinger, that stinger sticks in, and inevitably it gets torn out of his abdomen, and so the bee can't sting again and he can't function. But a wasp is a stinging machine. He can sting multiple times with this. So if you get a wasp underneath your shirt or in your pants, you're in trouble. So wasps and bees don't bite, they both sting. And the ones that sting you are always females. The males can't sting. And the reason that males can't sting is that for both species, the honeybee and the wasp, both of them have stingers that are based on a modification of an ovipositor. So this is a modification of ovipositor. This is a modification of ovipositor. And an ovipositor is a structure originally designed to lay eggs in a female. So that's why the males don't have them. So I hope you enjoyed seeing and learning about the difference between bees and wasps. And the next time you encounter one of these guys, you'll be able to tell the difference. And right now in April, there's a lot of bees and wasps flying around. The honeybees are becoming active because the flowers are starting to flower, so they can go out and collect nectar and pollen. The wasps are being active because most of the wasps are queens that are looking to set up a new colony. Honeybees will overwinter as adult bees inside a hive where they've got honey and they keep each other warm by the proximity of their bodies. But wasps overwinter by burrowing into the ground or under a log and waiting for temperatures to warm up. And it's only the queens that survive. So if you see wasps flying around right now, flying under your eaves, flying around your deck or porch, they're looking for a place to set up a new nest. Good luck. Don't get stung. We'll see you in the next episode.